Hello, everyone. Welcome
Awesome.
to the EspoVisuals Podcast, the fourth episode. Today, we've got Hannah Smith in the house. Hannah is a graphic designer and a visual artist. And I found her through her awesome NFT art, but she does a whole lot of other creative endeavors that I'm really excited to hear about. So if you want to start off, I would love if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and just a little bit about your artistic background.
Okay, I feel like it's gonna take so long, so I'll try like clamp it down. But hi, I'm Han. I'm from South Africa, and I haven't really met much other NFT people from South Africa. And I'm pretty much an all-round creative. I started off in like fine art. I've always been creative ever since I was like really young, from like 10 years old. I did a lot of painting and drawing and watercolors. I did mural painting. I did that. And then I studied graphic design after school. And then I studied further and got my postgrad in design, where I moved into sort of digital art and web design and all the things that come with digital work. And then I moved on to NFTs. And that's where I am today. I work for a tech company. They're a Web3 company. We do virtual reality stuff, voice AI, NFTs, game design, web design, app design. So all the products are Web3 related, and that's what sparked my interest to start my own NFT collection. Yeah.
Very cool. So how did you get involved in the Web3 space at all? Where did that transition kind of start?
So when I first started with NFTs and stuff, I was freelancing at the time. And I've always wanted to be like a digital art director or do something in like digital social media or like online, especially moving into UI and web. Like that's where I saw myself, but I didn't really know how to get there. So I studied graphic design and then I did my postgrad, which was like an additional 2 years. So I focused those 2 years on UI and I designed a hiking app because I really like hiking and being outdoors. So that sort of like opened up my portfolio to UI and product design. And then, so after I'd been freelancing, because I worked in the company as well, and then from the company I moved into freelancing. And that's how I ended up getting a job in tech, doing UI and stuff, based off of that project that I did over the 2 years at varsity.
Very cool. So when you were doing
freelancing, it was a lot of
freelancing,
hard work.
When you were doing freelancing and stuff like that, how were you getting clients? How did you kind of start getting actual work? Was that when you were with the company?
So I have like I said, I've always been creative ever since I was like super young, like in primary school. So even all through high school, like I was selling art and networking with a lot of like the creative companies and creative individuals in my city in South Africa. So I built up quite a following like on Instagram. So everyone knew me as like the creative person. And then I won a competition in 2018, which was my third year at varsity. And that got me like an iPad and I got a craft prize and my Apple Pencil. And I also got an internship to a like creative agency, which I started working at in 2018. And being involved there, I got to meet a lot of photographers and stylists, and I worked with a lot of videographers and a lot of creative people in my city. So when I left that job, then I started freelancing. A lot of the people that I'd worked with there and personal clients and people from high school and like family friends, they sort of all came to me when I moved into a freelance capacity. And that's how I got a lot of my clients. But probably like 85 to 90% of my clients come from Instagram because I like always post my art there. So people always just DM and then I tell them to send an email. Yeah. So I'm always trying to stay active on social media because it's like the best way to get clients, especially with like working remotely.
So are you doing like logos and you're designing like different posts for them? Is that kind of what you're doing? Or
so thankfully I do a lot of I do fine art, but I don't really do that now because it's harder to like ship that around. But I do graphic design, illustration, and then for my full-time job, I do more like app design, UI design, illustration. That's all like in the tech part. So I do a lot of website design there. But I do a lot of like logos and social media posts and brand identity, a lot of illustration as well, which is nice because I like that. But yeah, it's sort of like a full service all around. Mm. And a lot of print as well, like
I'm glad
covers and that sort of stuff.
Very cool. I wanted to ask you about that award that you won. I saw on your website, and that's really cool. So you had you won a 1-month internship, right, at a creative design agency. What was that experience like, just working in there? Did that kind of kickstart you to know that that's what, like, the path you really wanted to go down?
So that was incredible. That whole thing, like, because it was, that was my last year at university before I did my 2 years of postgrad. And I didn't really know, like, I knew a couple of agencies around my city where I wanted to go, but I hadn't applied to anywhere. And also, like, I don't have like a set style. Like, if you look at a lot of designers or artists or illustrators, they all have a very distinct style. You can be like, that is that person, like, you can tell. But I didn't really have that. And the only thing I sort of had plotting me along was my use of color. Because that was like the one constant thing in every art piece was color. So I was kind of like a bit lost. And our last project for university, we had to enter this competition that was being run by this local agency. And the prize was a 1-month internship and an iPad and an Apple Pencil. And I had a drawing tablet at the time, and that's what I was using. But I was like, hey, I want an iPad. So yeah, I ended up, it was an illustration project, like a packaging illustration project, which were 2 things that I really enjoy. And I ended up winning that, and then I got the internship. And that was like so crazy. It's so different to university. Like, when you're actually working in an agency or like in a studio doing stuff, it's not like curated briefs that your professors or whatever like set aside for you. It's like actual clients and colleagues that you work with who are like twice your age. And I'm like, I'm so used to like university where like all of my university mates were sort of my age. So it was a really good experience. And yeah, it was nice getting to learn how an agency runs. So like, I was very fortunate. This agency was like a full service agency. So they had like the PR side, they had the design teams, we had an illustration team, we had a packaging team, we had DTP, we had finished art, we had, what else? I can't even remember. There was like a whole bunch of stuff. The only thing we didn't have was like an in-studio photographer. So it was nice because I used to just go around to all the different stations and just ask questions. So when I eventually moved into freelancing, I really understood like how an agency is run, and then I put all of those practices into like a freelance mindset. But yeah, it was so awesome. I really enjoyed it. But at the same time, I struggled with like the 8 to 5, and I hated having to like drive into the office every day. And I was just like, it's almost like, yeah, you have to work from 8 to 5. You have to be creative between those hours. Or like, they'll say, here's a project, it's due in 2 hours, and then you've just got to sit down and do the project. And then, sometimes you won't feel any creative energy in those 2 hours, but maybe at like the end of the day you will, which is what I love about what I'm doing now, being so flexible, because, if I don't feel like creating anything, I'll just do it later when I do have an idea that like sparks, which is so much more suited to like my personality. It's way more sporadic. Spontaneous.
We're the same way. I mean, I'm taking a shower and I have a great idea pop in my head. It's like I'm sprinting out to get it done, and then like you're saying, sometimes like a day or two will go by and we're just like stuck, and it just is what it is. Just how we roll. It's just like having that flexibility is so nice. I totally agree. I don't know if we could do the 9 to 5 either because of that.
I'm curious, what city was this in?
Durban.
Okay.
Durban. So they're on the east side. It's like a super relaxed, chilled surfer city, like beach, like really chilled.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So after you did the internship, did that kind of put the idea in your head you wanted to do 2 more years at school? That's what you went into afterwards?
So I always wanted to do my postgrad. I always knew from like, even when probably from like my second year at varsity, I knew that I wanted to do it, because I was working towards my master's, which took even longer. That was like 3 more years on top of the 2 extra years that I did, which is so long. I couldn't imagine studying for 8 years. Yeah, it's crazy. So I always wanted to do my postgrad. But I wanted to work at the same time and like still earn money somehow and get experience. So that's why I opted to do it over 2 years, because I did it part-time. I could have done it over 1 year, but then I would have been doing it every day. But this way it was nice because I got 2 years of design experience in an agency and I managed to finish my studying. It was hectic, but looking back, it was like the best decision. It was crazy, but it definitely kept me on my toes. But the work that I was doing at work was so fun because I was more of like in an art director role at the agency I was at. So I started off as a designer, but then by the time I had left after, it was about 2.5 years or 2 years roundabout. By the time I had left, I was an art director. So I was often with photographers and stylists and making shot lists and overseeing work as well, which was quite cool. And I really like that sort of where I can see everything and plan the project from start to finish, rather than just being given a project like midway and be like, oh, make these tweaks. I much preferred like having the baby from like the mind map stage and brainstorming all the way through to like going live.
Oh yeah, very cool. And that position is called an art director, you said? The one who oversees.
Yeah. So in a creative agency, you'll have your graphic designers, you'll have your art directors, your copywriters, your finished art, your creative directors. There's a whole bunch of roles. So how it would usually go is your creative directors like at the very top, and they'll oversee everything, the whole project, they sign it off. Underneath them, you've got the art director, which will direct any artistic part of the project. So the creative director will be there for like all the super big decisions. The art director will be next in line to oversee the copywriting and all the graphic design stuff and make sure all the colors are all right and everything lines up. They will oversee anything visual, basically. And then your copywriter will obviously write all the copy. Your graphic designer will do all the design work, and then your finished art or your DTP will do all the final touches before it goes off to client. And the creative director will then oversee all of those roles. So the AD, the art director, they basically, it's the visual department, which I really love because I'm a very visual person.
Very cool. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So were you able to, because that hierarchy, you had moved all the way up in just 2 years, you said? That's impressive, right? Is that pretty normal?
Well, I was a junior art director, so I still had like a mid art director that would oversee my roles, and my creative director, I'd always work in conjunction with him, and he would always oversee my decisions. But it was nice that they gave me the opportunity to make those decisions, and then they would obviously review them. But still, like, they would come to me first and be like, what's your take? What should we do? What do you think? And then if it was good or bad, we'd chat about it. But also the copywriter that I worked with, they would also work very much in conjunction together. So it's not really like a hierarchy of like, oh, my say is better than yours. But it's just like in terms of like as the project moves along, the AD oversees a lot towards the end of the project as well.
Oh, very cool.
That seems perfect.
Yeah.
So it was like a dream come true. You got to make money, get the experience, work your way up, see all the different departments, get how it works. And now that you take it, you go move on to your own thing and you just get to take it all and all that experience and do it yourself. I love that. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And they were also helpful and like willing to answer questions because I ask a lot of questions. So
yeah, same. Yeah. It's nice having someone you could just chirp at all day, right? When they pop in your head. 100%.
Yeah. There was the one guy at DTP, like every day I'd probably go to him with a new question. I'd be like, so, what are you doing? How did you do that? Why did you do that? Why do we do this? Why did you put it there? What? And he's like,
that's why you were working your way up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They saw that hunger. That's why you're there.
So I want to just circle back real quick because this is something I've wondered about, just artists in different field, about having a specific style. How you were saying you don't really have a specific style. Do you think that hurts you? Is there a benefit to that? Is there a drawback? What do you kind of see? Because I noticed too, a lot of professional artists will say you kind of have to pick one style because people need to know what to expect from you to hire you. What do you think about all that?
So this is why I was in a bit of a dilemma when I left sparsity, because I was like, I don't have my own personal stamp that I can be like, this is me, this is my work. And I was like, if I had to just scatter a bunch of my artworks in an exhibition with other people's work, I didn't feel that people would be able to walk up to my work and be like, that's Hannah's work. And so I actually did a test, and I asked a bunch of my varsity friends. I curated a bunch of my work, and I went to them and I said, do any of these things have anything in common? Like, can you tell that this is my work? And 5 of them were like, because I asked 5 people, and they were all like, yes, I can tell exactly, and I was like, what, how? And they said, because of my use of color. And I was like, huh? I was like, how is that a thing? And they were like, no, they were like, we always know your work because it's the most colorful work, and you put my color theory was always really good. All the colors always look good together. So I was like, oh, okay, so that must be my thing. And then when I put together my Helium Heads, I was having a conversation with some other NFT friends, and that was the first comment they said. They were like, your use of color was what drew them to it. So I was like, oh, okay. But definitely in terms of art and design, it's difficult because it is important, but also it's not really important. So if you have a style, usually that artist is very good at that style. They're really, really good. They can do it with their eyes closed, which is really good. But it also makes it a lot more difficult for some artists to get jobs because they can only do one style. And then on the other side, you can have artists like me, for example, where I do a lot of different styles. So I can do really clean, flat illustration. I can do really realistic illustration and drawings. I can do really watercolor. I can work in oils and acrylics. I work in charcoal, I do pencil. I do so many different things. But for me, I spent hours studying those mediums so that I can do them well. So I don't know, I guess it depends. And sometimes I feel it makes my portfolio look a bit flip-floppy because there's all sorts of things. But at the same time, I'm also a very spontaneous person. I love to learn. I love to try new things. And that's why my portfolio is just scattered with all sorts of stuff, because they're all just random brain farts I've had on a random night. I'm like, hey, I want to try this. And then it'll work out. But sometimes it doesn't, and then I practice on it, so that it does work out. So I don't know, it just depends, I guess. And it's up to that artist. I know this one artist that I worked with back in Durban, and he is an incredible illustrator. He is insanely good, but he can only draw in one style. He cannot do anything else. And I find that so ironic, because if I had to just draw in one style for the rest of my life, I would get so bored. So I think it's a personal preference, and then just your commitment to mastering those certain techniques, I guess.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense of if you're looking for a very specific style and that artist is the absolute best, them getting that specific work. But you're right, when I looked at your website and your portfolio, my thought was, oh my gosh, this girl can do anything. She can do all of it, whatever type of project you want. You had professional packaging, the animal illustrations. Truly, I looked at your portfolio just like you said, where I was like, you could hire you for so many things, which is a complete skill in itself. So that kind of makes sense. It's either become good at jack of all trades or be extremely good at one thing. But I could see the middle kind of being the gray area of kind of have a style. You can do certain styles, but you don't really focus 100% to be the best at that specific thing. You're kind of in that gray area. So I can see that being helpful for artists, either be super diverse, super dynamic, be able to do lots of different projects, or just hone in if you have that one specific style that calls you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
sense.
Cool.
And there's definitely within my portfolio, there's definitely areas that I'm more skilled in, that if I had to get certain briefs, I'll be yes, 100% totally. And then there'll be other things, so I'll be yeah, okay, I'll do it. And I'm sure that probably sounds terrible because I always have clients coming to me for things, but every artist has something that they're more drawn to.
Of course.
Yeah. Mm.
Very cool. Let's get into NFTs. So I'm curious, I found you through SolSea specifically, through their top 100 one-of-one artists. Yeah, so I just wanted to ask, what made you choose SolSea and Solana? Was that your first experience with NFTs? Was that your first blockchain? How did that work?
It was actually you. So, Sydney's going to be like, when is there someone that's going to come on this podcast that wasn't me?
Oh my, I didn't know what the timeline was. I didn't know if you were on SolSea first, or I actually had no idea.
No, so I think you were like a week or two before me, because I was like, I think it was like beginning November when I started, and you were like towards the end of October or something like that. So yeah. I am on TikTok a lot. I have quite a large following on this. I'm on TikTok all the time, and I do a lot of like natural paint and that sort of stuff. So why one of your NFT videos pitched up on my For You page, I have no idea, but I'm forever grateful for that. Because all of my stuff is all like natural, eco-friendly, nature talk, like making paint, watercolor paint, all of that. And then boom, there was an NFT video. And I'm like, what? But like I said, like I had a lot of people that always knew me as an art person. So I was always being sent DMs and stuff by people like, oh, you got to try this, or get into this. Like, and about 6 months before that, I had like 2 or 3 people send me a DM about NFTs. And I'm like, oh no, wait, you got to check out NFTs. Like, how cool. Like, you got to do this to your art. I knew nothing about NFTs, nothing about crypto, nothing about digital wallets, nothing about how to get started. I knew no friends that did NFTs, like absolutely nothing. And so I was like, oh, well, that's just like a flop waiting to happen. And then in November, one of your videos, the one about how to mint on SolSea, pitched up on my For You page. I was like, oh, this looks so easy. It's like creating an Instagram account. Like, you just fill in your email and put in your, like, whatever. I was like, cool, I can do this. That was the easiest part. So I created my SolSea thing. And I was like, wonderful. Now, how do I get money into the wallet to do the thing, to buy and I was very confused. So I did a lot of, like, YouTube research on top of that, and I watched your videos. Like, I went through every one of your videos. I watched them like 5 times each. And I was like, okay, I can do this. Like, do it yourself, woman. That's me. And then I had to set up a digital wallet, and you were like, oh, Phantom. So I'm like, yeah, Phantom. So I signed up to Phantom, got the extension, and then I didn't know how to actually put the funds into the wallet. So I created an FTX account. That was like so confusing. I had no idea how this worked. I got my credit card, and then I bought this, and then I also only bought like a little bit, because if it flopped, then I only lost a tiny bit of money, because I was pretty sure I was going to click a wrong button, and it worked, and I was like, oh, okay, cool, that worked. And then I tried to put money in a second time, because obviously I put in, it was something crazy. I only put like 20 euros in or something, and then I tried the second time and it didn't work. But then when I actually got to minting my collection, that's when MoonPay like teamed up with Phantom. That was like an absolute godsend. I was like, They literally did this for me. I know. And I literally just like clicked the button. It was like, buy with MoonPay, click here, put in the details. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. Thank you. So yeah, that's how it sort of happened. But yeah, I think if your video hadn't come across, I wouldn't have realized how easy it was to actually like sign up and do everything on SolSea. Looking back now, I was like, I think it was just super scary, because I had never done anything, like I knew absolutely nothing about crypto. I didn't even know what like fiat was. I check currency rates and whatnot. I've never even looked at those bar graph things before, and the line graphs, like absolutely nothing. But yeah, you were definitely like a calming, like, it's going to be okay, we're in this together. And I think that was like the best motto I love about Web3, is like, no one knows anything. So we all just like share experiences. And then if it works out, it's like, great, okay, let me share this knowledge.
Yeah, so. That was my mindset going into it fully. And it truly was. Anyone who watched my videos learned just a day or two after I learned, because I would learn, make a video, share, look what I just learned, this is how you do it. So it really was, everyone who's following me, we were all learning together. I would learn something that morning and then post a video. And it's really cool how this space, because it's all so new, you get such a cool tight community because you're learning together. You're all kind of rising together, which is really, really special.
I would literally watch your TikTok page. I'm like, has she released a new video? I was like, what else can I learn? There's going to be an easier way to do this stuff. I'm like, when is she going to give me more knowledge?
That's funny. I love that.
That is funny.
Yeah, I was like fangirling hard. And then, and I was like watching your follower count come up. And then eventually, so I'm also over 100K. When you got to 100K, I was like, yeah, she made it.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Like, she joined the club.
Oh my gosh, that's really sweet.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's awesome.
No, I was like going through, because mine was also going up at the same time. So I was like, oh.
I love that.
I was tracking it just like I was tracking mine. Yeah.
So because you have so many different styles, you do so many different types of art, where did the idea came from for Helium Heads? Why was that your first NFT collection? Kind of, where did those characters come from?
So it's actually a really funny story. And I always find my greatest ideas literally come from when I'm like having a complete creative block. And it was like a random weekday. And I was sitting on the couch. I was like 3 glasses of wine down at the time.
Nice.
And I was sitting with my iPad. And I'd watched your video. Because literally from the time I watched your video to the time that I minted released my first like 10 NFTs was like in a space of like 5 or 6 days or like a week. So I watched your video earlier that day and I was like, okay, cool. Like I really want to do this, but I don't have anything, like I don't have a collection of work that's cohesive enough to release. Like I have a lot of illustrations on my website, like those animals and stuff, but I didn't feel like those were going to sell. Because also at the time I was looking at all the big projects like apes and CryptoKitties, doodles, punks. Like I was looking at all these projects and I was like, they're all like human looking figures, but they're not human. They have human traits, but they're not human. And I feel like that's what I was kind of looking at. And I was like, I need to find a figure that people can identify with, but it can't be human because that just brings in a lot of complications in terms of like traits and whatnot. And so I love drawing faces. Like I've always drawn portraits and faces. It's a huge thing that I've always done. And every time I get stuck, I just usually draw faces or eyes or whatnot. So I was sketching on my iPad and I drew a face and I drew the head afterwards. So I did all the facial features and then I did like a squiggly circle around it and it kind of looked like a balloon shape. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is it. Like a balloon head. And I was like, well, I can't call it balloon heads because that's just lame. Like now like a balloon face. And I was like, I don't know. I was just trying to think of names and it came up and I was like, oh my God, helium. I was like a helium head. And I liked it because it was HH and I'm H because Hannah. So it was like Helium Heads by Hannah. I was like, oh, that's clicky. Like that'll work. So I went and did so much research and I looked on like Twitter. I looked on Instagram. I was looking all over the web. I looked on like all the different blockchains to see if Helium Heads was a thing, and it wasn't. And I was like, how is that not a thing? Like, this is a brilliant idea. Again, the wine. And so this was like researching the heck out of this thing for like 2 hours. I was sitting on the couch and I was just like, blah, 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 blah. And then the next day I started drawing them and playing with color and what brushes I want to use. Because I only use a very specific set of brushes for that one, like for the whole project, so it stays cohesive. And then I started drawing the Helium Heads and I drew about 10 of them and then I released them. And then I kind of just release them every now and then when I have a chance to draw. I'll draw and then just like randomly release. And I'm almost at 50 now, so it's crazy.
It's amazing. I love them. So I do want to ask, as you mentioned, because they all have a very specific texture style, obviously. Do you make your own brushes? Do you buy brushes?
No, I actually just use the ones on Procreate.
I love the colors on that collection. That is that collection just stands out so well. It fits the NFT vibes, like you're saying. You can obviously tell you paid attention. That's kind of how a lot of them are. But then with the colors, and then it's a face, so it brings you in. You can see it's human-ish, but then it's not. So then you look at it even longer. Then those colors are trippy. And you're like, all right, this is cool. I like it. It catches my eye.
Thanks.
It makes sense to hear that your consistent style, your constant is colors, because you look at those collections and you know, seeing a lot of NFT projects, you can I mean, you can just tell if someone knows color theory or if they're just choosing a bunch of random bright colors. And everything you do is so colorful, but it's so purposeful. And you can tell, color theory, like you can just feel that you have a fine art background, that it's not just random picking all the bright colors. So yeah, that's a really, really cool collection.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How did you get into SolSea's top 100 for the virtual art? How did all that happen?
So honestly, I did not see that coming. I didn't even know that they had the exhibition being released. Like I'd seen on their Discord, but also I don't know, it's so weird. Ooh, I almost fell off my chair. It's so weird because on their Discord, I can't write for some reason. I can only read every channel, and I've left it and I've rejoined it and I've re-verified and I've done all sorts, but I absolutely, for the life of me, cannot write on their Discord. But I saw all this stuff coming through, but I couldn't communicate with them and be like, hey, what's this about? So I was tagging, so in the time that they sort of started. What happened?
Hold on, Hannah, sorry. I don't know if you can just see it. We just had a surfboard fall.
Yeah, so take it back. So you couldn't write in SolSea's Discord?
No, I couldn't. And I don't know, it was so bizarre. And then some random bot sent me a thing from the SolSea thing. They're like, you're not old enough to reply to the thing. I'm like, what? And this was when I had first joined. And I was thinking they were talking about my age, but I think they were talking about my amount of time on the server. But now it's been months and I still can't write. So
what's that?
I don't know. They even wrote back to the bot. I'm like, I'm freaking 24. How can I be too young for this? Anyway.
That's funny.
Yeah, I didn't have to leave it. I was like, I can't be having discussions with the bot. So, yes. So I was on Twitter because I couldn't be on their Discord. And I was tagging them a lot on Twitter because I just released my collection as well for Helium Heads. So I was just shilling a lot and, shilling. So that sounded like something else. I was shilling a lot of my work on Twitter. And yeah, I was just mentioning them all the time, Helium Heads on SolSea. And all of a sudden I got a DM from them and they were like, hey, so yeah, we've got this exhibition, this virtual exhibition, and we've seen a lot of traction on your Helium Heads and you sold a few and we really like them. So can we have your email so we can invite you to be part of the exhibition? I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. First I thought it was a scam because I was very wary about it. It was yeah, it was my first 2 weeks in the thing, and I'm like, okay, sure. But then I thought it was the verified account, so I was like, nah, this must be legit. Yeah, so then I gave them my email. They sent me the project brief, and then I just did a quick drawing for that, and then submitted it. And then that was a month, it was probably about a month before it actually got released. Yeah, I think it took a month after that. So again, when they've eventually released it, my Helium Heads had then evolved into Cyclopses, and that's why the 100 one has 2 eyes, because that was back when I was still drawing them with 2 eyes. Now pretty much they're all Cyclopses. So yeah.
Okay.
Which is actually a funny story, because the only reason I made them Cyclopses was because I was watching a video by Cade, actually. One of his million YouTube videos, and in them he was mentioning all these different projects and why they do well, and he's like, why do you think Cyclops NFTs do so well? And I'm like, Cyclops NFTs, okay, well if they do well, I'm gonna take that piece of information, and that's why I made them Cyclopses, because of Kate's comment. So yeah, should tag them more often.
Yeah, no, that's super cool, especially just starting out. I could see, you're 2 weeks in, you're like, is this a scam? How could this be happening already?
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Because I almost didn't give it to them. I'm like, you know what, Hannah, just you're new to this community, just try it. Well, they're okay.
Yeah.
It's the power of being early. I mean, for all of us. Get in and already 2 weeks later, the whole company is reaching out to you. Doesn't happen much.
That's why I was like, this can't be possible.
Did you notice a big kind of bump in your collection views or in sales from that, or what did you notice kind of any changes? Did that help in any way, just that whole exhibition?
No, I think the thing that just wowed me the most was my NFT sold, I think it was within 24 hours of the exhibition going live. And that was the biggest oh my gosh, this is so cool. And at the time I was in South Africa and I was having like breakfast outside and my mom was like, oh, how's the NFTs doing? Because she doesn't know anything about NFTs. But every time she asks me, I explain it and she just listens. So I was like, oh yeah, actually I need to check because I hadn't checked in like a couple of days. But I saw that the collection, like the exhibition went live and I went on and then they sent me an email and they were like, your NFT sold, the money will be in your account, whatever. And I was like, what? This is so cool. So that was like really, really cool. That was like such a boost of confidence as well. And then literally I was like, okay, I got to be in my bonnet. And I was just like drawing so many more. So I released a whole bunch after that because I was drawing more. And then obviously because I was releasing more, then more sold. But yeah, I don't think it was like an immediate like, actually I don't even remember. This was months ago. I should probably go back on my activity and be like, look at the dates.
Yeah, that's super cool. And so what, in terms of just, because you've done a great job like making sales, where would you say most of your sales come from? Is it Twitter? Is it TikTok?
No, I wouldn't say it's TikTok. I don't really talk about like my NFT collection there because my audience is very like nature, eco-friendly. That was another reason though going on to Solana or like on SolSea particularly was the eco role that it had. Because yeah, you have like 100,000 people watching you for making natural paint and watercolors, and then you go and be on NFTs, and then yeah, the audiences don't exactly mix. But I have released some videos on TikTok, but the views like they definitely don't take a liking. I mean, they get views, but it's not like my usual content. Most of my stuff I posted a lot on Twitter. I hadn't been on Twitter in like 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. I don't even remember. I had it back in like beginning of high school, I think, and then I didn't use Twitter until people were like, NFT, Twitter is the place to be. So I was like, okay.
Yeah, same
that's
with us.
Like joined in 2012, but I haven't used it since like 2013. Yeah, and then yeah, probably Twitter, Instagram. Post a lot on Instagram, but the problem with my Instagram is most of my Instagram followers are, I've got like 3,500 on Instagram or so. But pretty much everyone on Instagram knows nothing about NFTs. So I don't think many of my views come from there. So I don't actually know. I think it's all like new people that I've met through Twitter, and then like for example you and Lisa, all of those people I sort of met through the NFT world, TikTok, Twitter, and then followed you guys on Instagram because I like visual things. But yeah, I don't 100% know, but I also think it's also Discord because when I first started, I was shilling quite a bit on Discord, and then that's how I met more friends from Discord, and then found them on Twitter, and then found them on TikTok, and then found them on Instagram. So it's sort of like looped. So I don't really know, to be honest. I wish there was like some way to track that.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that'd be actually really awesome.
Well, Twitter and Discord makes sense. Like, I feel like that is where most of the NFT action is happening. So,
yeah.
Never used Discord or Twitter. That's funny. I went on and same thing. My Twitter was from 8 years ago. I'm like going on deleting all my old friends, deleting them off. I'm like, I'm going to start posting NFT content. I'm doing all this and I don't want anyone to know. I'm just like restarting. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, that is really funny.
I literally went through every single tweet I posted and I like rolled all the way down to the bottom because I think when I started that Twitter account, I must have been like, I don't know, 2012. How old was I? That was like grade 8, I think. So I would have been like 13 or 14. I don't know, so 12 or 13. So I was like, well, I don't know what sort of stuff I'm posting at like that age. Like now I'm 10 years older than that. So I went through and I like evaluated every tweet, deleted the stupid ones, and I was like, okay.
Okay, now I can rejoin the Twitter club. That's funny.
Yeah, I was like, maybe one day if I'm a rich and famous artist, I never know if people are gonna like stalk down to the bottom. Because on TikTok and stuff, people do that. They like find your first video on TikTok. They like sit there scrolling for hours to like get to the bottom. And they're like, I found your first TikTok. So in years to come, I don't see people like, I found your first tweet. And it's probably like, hi world, it's me, Hannah. I'm like, oh god.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. So I saw you have a new collection. Tell me about it.
Okay, so it's actually quite funny because basically the iPad that I won in 2018 it was just like a normal 6th generation 9.7-inch 32 gigs, like super just like it's nothing super fancy about it. But it was extremely slow. And lately I've been working on quite a few illustration projects. And the iPad is just like ridiculously slow. Like I would draw a line on Procreate and I'd like wait 2 seconds and then the line would appear. And I was like, I actually cannot work like this. And then I'd like try and undo something and it wouldn't work. So I was like, okay, screw this. So I bought a new iPad last week. I think it was last week. Yeah, and I bought like the newest, biggest, best, like, oh, this thing is amazing. The iPad Pro with the M1 chip. I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. So
Yes.
I got this thing and I started drawing. And then I just couldn't stop and I was drawing. But obviously all my Procreate files from my previous iPad carried through to my new one. And usually I always keep like a digital sketchbook of like random moments. Like whenever I get creative block, I just scribble random things. And I was like, oh, maybe there's potential in this. So I curated all of those files, put them all together in a folder, and kind of mix and match the layers and like slack them all together like a collage. And it was kind of just like my creative exploration of creative block and like a visual representation of like what it feels like when I have creative block. And sort of just making art out of like when my mind is blank and I don't know what to do. So that was like the thinking behind that. And this is what I did all last week. And I ended up like I was drawing like every night after work. I ended up making like 10, 12 pieces. So there's 13 altogether now. And I was like, hey, like now I've got a little nice collection. And I was so excited to release it that I hadn't even created the collection. It hadn't been verified, nothing. But I was like, I just want to like get it out there, put it, because then I didn't want to be like posting it on Twitter and Instagram, and then it's not directing people anywhere. So yeah, it was like spur of the moment. I think it was like 3 days ago. I just made the collection and then minted them all. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, but it's literally just like a visual exploration of like creative block and like the process that I go through and like the random things that I draw, or like I'll do abstract backgrounds or like test out different brushes.
So all the different elements of those pieces were just a bunch of different sketches, and you just kind of took different ones, collaged them in certain pieces. That's really cool.
Yeah. And then a lot of it then I would just, so they're all individually drawn. So all the backgrounds, or like I was adding random pieces, but like some of them have self-portraits, some of them have birds, some of them have sun, some of them have like, there's one that has like a helium head figure, but it's not like on a balloon. Yeah, they were just like random bits of creative like spurts I had. Yeah, and it was just like what I go through when I'm bored and I don't have anything to draw, and I was like, well, might as well turn this into art or something good.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's something I hear artists, just like YouTubers, professional artists I watch, is they say you can't always control creativity and you can't just be in a creative flow, but you can control your consistency and how often you're making art, and how they always recommend, even if you're not feeling creative, just make something, just draw something. So that's so cool to hear that in those times when you are feeling creatively blocked, you are just drawing these random little things, but then you were able to take all those and actually make a piece of art that you love. Like, that's so cool. I love that concept and everything about that. Yeah.
And you came out with this, you said last week?
That's why I called it.
And it's all out in the...
Yeah.
So we can go get one of these pieces right now.
Yeah,
gotcha.
All available. And that's why I called it Lost and Found, because when I created all of them, I was really lost and didn't know what to do. And then when I pieced them all together as NFTs or like cohesive finished illustrations, and I was found. So
that's awesome. I love that.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Wow, nice. What is your daily ritual like, or your daily routine? Like, what do you do all day for work and then art, and how does this all kind of loop together, and how do you create your content and organize everything?
So I am like the least most likely person to have a routine. I just cannot do routine. I hate routine. And it's always so funny because I write to-do lists like every day in my diary. I'll have a to-do list, but it's more like a weekly guide of things that I should get done sometime at some point. Just do it. And I always used to have this joke with my little sister because she's like very time sensitive and everything is to the book. So she'll be like, at 9:05 I do this, and then at 9:26 I do this, and then at 10:54 I'll have to do this. I cannot live like that. And it's so funny because like we're just so different. But yeah, so for me, I'll wake up, I'll take my little puppy outside and play with him, and then I usually start my day every morning. So the company I work for, they're a tech company, they're in Hong Kong, so they're a couple of hours ahead of me. So when I wake up in the morning, it's the afternoon for them. So we'll have like a daily meet, which is a morning meeting, and then after the meeting, I'll sort of get started. Like usually I'll be working on websites or apps, or I'll be illustrating something for a product that we're working on, or whatever my brief for the day is. I'll usually do that and I'll take a break, and then I'll work on personal stuff. So I'll do in between it, like if I take a break, I'll work on illustration, or I'll work on like some NFT stuff or content planning, or I'll go outside and film a TikTok. Like I can't just sit all day. I've got to be doing all sorts of little things, and I've always got like 10 things on my plate that I'll just take pieces off. It's like a cake, and I'm just like taking crumbs and like moving them around. So yeah, that's like my day to day, and then I'll have the to-do list of stuff that I need to do at some point. And I've been trying lately. So when I started working for this company I'm working for now, they're super flexible. So they work in this like priority-led thing because we're so flexible. So every week when we have like our meetings, I'll be like, okay, priority for the day is this, this, and this. And then like the next day, the priority might be different. So like it changes depending on what we need. And usually like my to-do list would be like all over the page. But like in the last week, I've been trying to like prioritize and be like, okay, priority. And then try and list them in the order that I need to do them in. Still doesn't work out like that, but I'm trying. But yeah, that's sort of my day. I'll usually do work, NFT stuff. I'll usually draw. I draw every day. There's not a day where I don't do something creative. I'll paint usually. I'll make paint as well for TikTok, or yeah, I don't know. I like to cook, so I cook a lot as well. That's fun.
Yeah.
Do you have hobbies that are outside the creative realm? Like, do you jog? Do you go on hikes? Do you do any of that kind of stuff? Or is it all creative, all work?
Yeah, pretty much everything is creative. So I do a lot of painting, drawing, digital illustration. I was making YouTube videos last year, so I was doing a lot of filming, but that got quite hard this year. Also, my mic broke, and then my lights broke, and then I had to buy new stuff. So I was like, oh my word. But yeah, I love hiking. That is like a huge thing for me, especially like when I did like my university work and stuff. That's why I based my 2 years of postgrad on hiking, because it literally gave me like an excuse to go out and hike for 2 years straight, because I had to get all my research and my photography. I did like a photo journal. I used all my own like media and stuff. So that was amazing. My professor would be like, oh, you got to work on this. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing a hike this weekend. I'll get the content. So yeah, I like that. I like to run, but I haven't run in quite a while. And yeah, I like to cook. And what else do I like to do? I used to surf in high school, so I like that. I like individual sports, like running and that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Where are you based out of now? Where are you living?
I'm in France.
In France. Okay. When did you? Yeah. What brought you to France?
That was in the end of 2020. I came to France.
Okay. For any specific reason, or just something new?
So my partner, he's a rugby player, and he came up here in 2020 to play rugby. So I relocated. And being like a digital nomad, it's so easy to do that. Yeah. So yeah. That's awesome. That's cool. But I really like it here. It's just very different to South Africa, obviously. And like here, it actually gets so cold it snows. Like where I'm from in Durbs, it does not snow because it's a beach city. So that was something to adjust to.
Do you like it? Do you like the snow?
But it's cool.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah. It gave me a lot of inspiration coming here, because like the buildings are also different, the roads are different. Obviously this is the first world country, SA is like a third world country. The way it gets run is so different. I mean, they both have their perks, and SA will always be home. But I definitely don't regret it. It's a very different lifestyle, but it's very cool.
Very cool. Do you see yourself being there long term?
Hopefully, yeah. So I've got a South African passport, and you can about do this much with your South African passport. So it's quite tough. But yeah, we're hoping to be here for a while. Yeah, that's the main plan. But again, it's nice that like it's easy to like relocate because of like working in Web3. It's not like I'm tied to an office or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's exactly how we want to be. We want to be able to, our job to move with us.
Yeah, we want to be able to bounce, go take a month trip if we want, stay in the city if we need.
Make the podcast mobile. Yeah, that would be cool. I'm excited to do traveling episodes. Be just on a mountain somewhere or something. Just podding.
Just podding on a mountain or on a beach. Yeah, seriously. That would be fun.
Oh my word. It made it so much harder with COVID though, but at the same time, it made it so much easier to work because everyone had to learn to work remotely, whereas previously people were sort of against it, and now people are more for it, which, I mean, it didn't really affect me too much, but it's nice to see now companies are very willing to work remotely, which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is. But yeah, bummer about the travel. Literally, like, when COVID happened, I got back from China literally 2 weeks before COVID, like, exploded. And I got back and everyone was like, oh my God, did you hear this thing that's happened in China? I'm like, what? No. I was like, don't worry. I'd left like 2 weeks before it happened.
I'm not one.
Everyone was like, Hannah, you were in China. So I was like, oh.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Oh my gosh. You're the reason it's in this country. Everyone's blaming you. You're like, oh no.
Dodged that bullet.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I have one question that I think maybe would be a good place to end on. Just for anyone at home who's an artist who's maybe interested in the NFT space, do you have any advice, anything you've learned just from your experience thus far that you want to share?
I would definitely say if you're umming and ahhing on it, I think the best thing to do is to just jump in and do it. Like most people in this space had no idea and only realized they enjoyed it after they did it. And another thing is if you are willing, like if you want to get like dip your toes in and you don't know where to start, I'd say like starting on SolSea is probably a good idea because it's cheap. That was like also another main reason was I was looking at like air and gas prices and stuff, and I was like, I don't have like thousands of dollars to just waste. But I was like, I don't mind losing a couple of $100 if it like works or not works. So I think that's a big thing, like if you're worried about like that sort of impact. And then lastly, also, I think the most important thing is to view NFTs not as like a cash grab, because I have a lot of people, like I said, a lot of my followers on Instagram and that sort of stuff don't know anything about NFTs. So when I started out with NFTs, I had so many people come to me and be like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? How do you do this? What do you do? How do you make money? I want to make money. Like what here? And I was like, well, okay. I couldn't really help them because I don't really flip NFTs either. Like I don't buy into those big projects and flip them. I don't try to resell. Like that's just not why I do it. So I couldn't really give them any valuable insight. I just direct them all to Kate's channel. I'm like, here, he has good insight on projects. Like that's what he does. But yeah, I couldn't really help him. But I think that's the biggest thing is like, it's not a cash grab. It's not an easy way to make big money. Like people always see these things like 12-year-old makes this much money. People sells this for this much. I mean, how many Beeples are there in the world?
Yeah, there's one.
Many. Yeah, like, it happens, but it's not going to happen to you.
And he and he was an artist for like 20 years before he got into NFTs and stuff. So it's not like he wasn't working. And that piece literally took like years because it was like 5,000 pieces put into one. That didn't happen overnight. So it's like, it's not just a quick, easy way to make a buck. yeah, I think that's just probably the most important. It is a lot of hard work. There's a lot of strategy. There are wins and there are losses, and yeah. But if you get into it, it's still fun. And probably another piece of advice is like, if you don't know where to start on Twitter or Discord and YouTube, because this community is super welcoming. Like, I did not see that coming. Like, I went onto Twitter and Discord, and everyone was like, oh, help us out. How do you do this? Oh, do this, whatever. Like, everyone's just spewing out knowledge, which is totally different to other creative fields that I've been in, where they gatekeep like a lot of it because they try to get ahead because you're competing for clients. Whereas here, there's something for everyone. So everyone just helps everyone, which I really like.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That was awesome. And I love how you said that about it's not a quick way to make money. I think NFTs gives everyone the opportunity to sell art, because you don't have to, you know, be next to a gallery and live in a city. You can be anywhere and you have the opportunity, but it doesn't just happen. Just like selling art in any other industry, it's hard to sell art. You have to market it. You have to, like, there's so many things you have to do that
find your audience.
You have to find the people who are going to buy it and actually connect with them. And I think that is a huge misconception in the space, is people see it just as quick money. And I relate to you in the same way, where I get every day, I get so many messages from people talking about, oh, well, I'm here to make money fast. How do I do this? How do I do that? And I'm just like, I don't know. I'm not doing that. I have no idea. I don't think you can
like,
do that.
I'm just drawing and then buying someone's like one-on-one artists, or like, I was like, I don't know. I mean, some of these generative projects, I like the art and I appreciate the art like a lot. So some of them, maybe one day I'll buy one or two just because I do like the art. But that's the only reason I buy art, really, is if I connect with it on a personal level. And I buy it to keep it because I appreciate it. It makes me feel something. I feel connected to it. I buy it because I want to put it in my house or put it in my digital gallery or add it to a collection, not to like resell. I think I've always had the connection with art though. It's like the way I curate everything. Like, I've got this whole wall. Okay, you can't see it because you can't see it. But there's a whole wall like right in front of me here, and it's got like prints and paintings, and I mean, it's like a whole wall of stuff that I've like found and curated. And I keep it and I put it on display. And that's how like I see my NFTs going to other people. And if I buy NFTs, that's the purpose. For personal appreciation.
Personal appreciation. Yeah. Yeah. We're the exact same when it comes to why we're in the game. What do you think?
Yeah, that was awesome. Thanks, Hannah.
Yeah.
We were nervous. You're the first person we've had on that we haven't quite talked to before. So we're like, oh, geez, hopefully they're not camera shy, or, like they can get it out. Some people just like really start to, choke up, and obviously not the case with you. So that's awesome.
No, I'm very like super chilled with chatting to people. But when I got to the message, I won't lie. I was like, what? Like, didn't you message me? I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, I know we're practically the same age. And I was like, wow. I went like ran off. I was like, guess who just messaged me? Oh my word. I was so excited. I was like, what is Sydney on with me?
Let's go.
Because also, like we haven't chatted like too much. I mean, I'm in your Discord and Instagram and like TikTok and Twitter and stuff. Like, I see what happens and whatnot. We haven't like had one-on-one.
I know. I'm glad we got. This is the best way to meet people, because I feel like I know so much about you now. I've gotten to pick your brain, ask about your whole life. This is a great way to meet people, actually.
It is. Yeah.
And it is funny. That makes me. Thank you for saying that. It makes me really happy hearing that you were excited when I just messaged you and asked, because that was something I get so nervous. I was telling Matt, like, I don't know, I'm nervous to ask people to come on the podcast. What if they feel obligated? What if da-da-da? And you had said, you're like, Sydney, you get excited when people ask you to go on your podcast. People are going to be just as excited when you ask. So that's nice to hear.
Yeah. Also, you got to put yourself out there. Otherwise, like, you're trying to get content and build stuff and network, and like, that's the only way. Just to like, be like, hey, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Come be on my podcast.
Yeah.
But I'm also excited because you're going to bring so I binge watch like all your podcasts. So that's why I feel I don't have questions, because all your things are fresh in my mind. But yeah, it's nice to like be able to see all the people you're going to bring on, because then I can network even more and like grow the network, more people to follow. This week I've gone on like a spree and just found like a ton of artists. They're all on Espo, and I'm like, why are you on Ethereum? I'm
I
like,
know.
please come to Solana.
We're having that struggle because obviously we're sponsored by SolSea, so we will definitely have all kinds of different artists on here, and some will be Ethereum, but we're just like, where are the Solana people out? Like, come on, like there is so many reasons to be on Solana. We've already gone over them. Well, thank you so much, Hannah, for being here with us. It was a huge treat. You have a pretty cool life you're living. You're doing things differently. I love it. Love hearing from people like you. And to everyone else watching, go follow Hannah. She's doing cool things. She's doing it all.
Yeah, I'll have all her links in the description below so you can check out all of her creative endeavors.
Oh, yeah. And with that being said, guys, bye. Have a great rest of your day.
Peace.